my cell phone so that I can, there it is.
We can't hear you, Diane. I can read your lips. No, I can't read your lips now. No. I can't hear you either.
Still muted. Now.
All right.
Okay, no longer muted, but still cannot hear you.
Nope. Okay, so while we're waiting for Diane to fix that, we are live on Facebook. Welcome everybody to Beyond the Clouds for, what is it? It is Friday, February 21st.
Can you believe it's the end of February?
No. Part of me says we need more time, and the other part is like, oh, the end of February just can't come soon enough. So, yeah, absolutely. So if anybody's out there watching us, feel free to. Oh, hello. We can hear you now.
So bizarre. Somehow the button on the actual mic got pushed mute.
Yeah.
And I'm on Zoom trying to make it unmute, and it's not even that.
That's okay. We can hear you now, so that's awesome.
Hello, ladies. Happy Friday.
Hello.
Happy Friday.
So first off, we'll take a minute to introduce ourselves to anybody out there who's watching or rewatching this. And then I've got something we actually spoke with a boot camper today, something that actually Diane does. So I thought, hey, we can kind of bring that in because I'm like, or does this, So I thought, hey, we could kind of talk about that because I think it's a problem a lot of people have. So first off, let's just go right and introduce ourselves. And I don't know, let's introduce yourselves and just say, is there anything special that you do to get through February? Because February is usually a pretty busy month for all of us, regardless of where we're actually located. So Tanya Hills, founder of Club Bookkeeping Services and Tanya's Bookkeepers Bootcamp. And I don't have an answer to my own question. My birthday is February 27th. So usually I kind of just plan, to have my sister over. And it's I don't drink a lot. I drink socially. When I do, mind you, I say I do, when I do drink, I drink a lot, but 5 drunks and I'm passed out upstairs, or 5 drinks, not 5 drinks, 5 drinks, and I passed out upstairs. So a lot is still not really a lot, but I usually plan to have just a nice something like, because it's my birthday, few people come over, again, my sister, her family, and we just do something to kind of relax and shake it off and get ready for the next 2 months of hell, which we know is tax season. So who is next? Jessica, you were here next. You're up in that corner. So why don't we go with you next?
Sure. Jessica Fox, also known as Bandora Fox on Facebook, from Florida Virtual Bookkeeper. I specialize in service-based businesses using QuickBooks Online. And I actually recorded a video on this topic yesterday because I've had enough people lamenting and complaining and just needing to vent to me about how stressed out they are with tax season and just year-end stuff, doing all the compliance and getting the books ready for taxes. My January and February have been smooth sailing. I've been cool as a cucumber, even though I got disrupted by an injury which interfered with my ability to get work done. I'm just coasting and doing great. So what I did to change to go from I'm losing my mind, which used to be me years ago, to end of year, tax season, no big deal, we're good.
So how do I find it on YouTube?
I'll actually find the link and post it in the chat.
Thank you.
Yeah, and then maybe if we can post it in the Facebook, like on the Facebook one as well, that would be great. So anybody else can go in and take a look.
Sure.
And perfect timing for this. It's almost like I knew when I saw somewhere that you did that yesterday. I did
post on my personal feed, so you probably saw it there.
And you know what? And I may have. It's funny if I did. It's in the subconscious because I'm not spending a whole lot of time on Facebook right now because we're trying to push through with all the deadlines of everything. So yeah, but you're right. You're very right. It's, I still kind of scan through quickly. So that's probably where I probably did see it. That's
and
awesome.
Jessica, is that around using the Successful Bookkeeper system?
Yes and no. The pure bookkeeping system does help a lot, and I do show one of the workflows for that, but this is actually something that I implemented before I became a pure bookkeeping licensee. because really I used to get so stressed and so burnt out in January and February. I used to dread it. And 2 years ago, I said, this is it. I'm drawing the line in the sand. Something's got to change. Last year was my first year making changes. It was really good, a huge improvement. I only joined Pure Bookkeeping in July of 2019. So I did make some tweaks this year and it was even better. But even just last year, while everybody else was stressed out with clients not responding on getting them the information late, or clients disappearing, deadline is January 31st and client shows up on January 30th at 10 p.m. There's the email, here's the stuff. I'm expecting you to have it ready the next day. That doesn't happen anymore. So I posted the link in the chat, and then once I find which window I have Facebook, and I'll post it there.
Oh, that's okay. I've actually got Facebook open. I'll post it in there right now. So
Cool.
that's awesome. Thank you. And and normally, and I bring everything on myself, because what we do is, of course, we've got our regular stuff, but what happens is over Christmas, I have time. I don't work a lot over Christmas because, of course, it's slower. Going into the beginning of January, the team does most of the actual work. Let's be honest, they do most of the actual work. But what happens is, because I have more time off, I think, and I'm like, oh, I want to change this and change this and change this. So I create our chaos. And if they're over there in the back listening to me behind the wall, they're probably laughing their butts off, going, well, at least she admits it. I create our own chaos by going, hey, I want this, and this change, and we need to re-onboard our clients, and we need to do this and this and this, all before tax season begins. So if I were to not do that, we would be okay. But yes, I can't sit still. That's my problem. So yeah, we talked about ADHD offline. I am probably highly ADHD, because my brain, again, thinks like 12 steps ahead of my mouth. So sometimes even when I'm talking, someone's going like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, didn't you get this? No, you skipped that whole sentence, Tanya.
Your brain dead. Nobody else is privy to that.
Exactly. It's like, no, you just need to plug in and listen. But anyway,
My-
but that's
my
awesome. So I posted that out. So hopefully everybody can benefit from that for sure.
My husband always complains that I have conversations with him when he's not in the room, and then he doesn't get the memo. So I totally get that.
Oh, but you know what? He probably was in the room and he probably forgot, like a normal husband. I have said to Mom, I'm literally ready to bring in a camera and just put it in there so that it'll record things. So that way, when he says, you didn't say that, that didn't happen, I can be like, look, it's on video.
Yep.
So exactly. I can't be imagining that much, where it's more likely that he's sitting there watching sports and doing the whole Charlie Brown thing here and wah, 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 wah. Exactly. All right. So Stacy, you know.
My name is Stacy Stanley Young, and I own Stanley Young Business Strategies. How have I been dealing with this season? Not in some ways well, and some ways not well. In January, my colleagues like, oh my God, we have so much work to do. And I'm like, well, hang on, what do we have to do? And oh, well, this person didn't get back to us and this person didn't get back to us. And I'm like, you send out one more note saying we're looking for this stuff. And by the way, it's your problem. So in January, we had that, what I call pre-tax season. And then in a couple of weeks, we'll start tax season. So we've kind of had a little bit of a lull, although what I have found that's happened is in January, we had a whole bunch of prospective clients. I think we talked to 15 different people. And that's a lot of time evaluating, a time quoting, a time sending out the quotes, answering questions back and forth, and whatnot. And this week I sent out the last of those quotes and I kind of went, okay, I'm done. And what I have discovered in the last 2 days is my to-do list. I've been trying different to-do lists and they're not working for me, none of them. I haven't missed anything yet by that much, right? And so I need to find a different system, and I'm still on the search for that. But otherwise, this week has been a good week. Next week, I think the chaos will start again.
You know what? Just QBOA work if you haven't looked at that, because I know you've got QBO
Mhm.
files,
Mhm.
it's free, it's included. I will find the link to the video and pop it in there. You know, mind you, the video was probably about 6, 7 months old. I'm planning on doing another webinar
Okay.
shortly as to how we use it. It organized us completely. Follow
Okay.
inbox zero with it. It can get really powerful. So there's just a few things that we've changed since that last
Okay.
video, but I'll pop that in there so that you can take a look. And I think it's probably sometime in March that I
Mhm.
might do the new one, just probably in the first couple of weeks. I just
Mhm.
have to make sure I can find an open day.
That would be good. In this particular case, all of the different systems that I've used, I believe they're not working for me because of user error, not because it's not a good, but I don't know how to use it, right? I
Right.
got ClickUp, which on one of the bookkeeping Facebook sites is they asked the same question or the same problem that I was having, and someone said, oh, I use this and I use this and I use this, and I looked at all of them and I went, well, right now my budget is zero, so which one was free?
Yep.
And so we went with ClickUp, and I think it could be a good tool, and I don't think I'm using it properly, and it's not, the output isn't giving me what I need,
Right.
but I think it's user error.
Well, see, and that's the good thing about my video is that
Yeah,
it shows you exactly how we use it, what we
that'd
scheduled,
be
and
good.
all of that. So it,
Yeah.
it hopefully will be able to dissuade some of that. And I've heard some good things about ClickUp as well, but you're right. Sometimes if you don't understand
Uh-huh.
how to use something to its full benefit, then all of a sudden you're sitting there with this gap, right? So
Yeah.
absolutely that makes sense.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so yeah, I will share that link out as well. Again, we use it. We've added some new things to it, so I'll be doing another video. So definitely make sure you get to the new webinar when I schedule that out and share that. But for sure. All right, Diane.
Ah, Diane Mueller, and I am the owner of Soma Small Business Solutions and a partner in Trifold Bookkeeper Advisors. And I have to admit, it's a little bit unfair asking, or my response is unfair when it comes to whether or not I was stressed January and February, because I don't take on a lot of new clients or anything anymore. So I've got my regular clients, and they're pretty trained and all of that. But I did take on a brand new client in the end of January, I think it was. Yeah, the end of January. And I was surprised how much stress that caused me in February, because I was thinking I was just going to coast along like normal, do the T4s, the T4As for all of my regular clients. And I know all their stuff, so it was no big deal. But throw even one new client in the mix, and it was like not huge, but it was like, oh, I got to do this, I've got to do that. And yeah, so it was a little bit, and I know that sounds awful, one new client, whoopee shit, but oh, whoopee do. But I was amazed at how much bringing
Mhm.
on a client in that month of February could throw you for a loop.
Mhm. It
It
broke
doesn't
your
take
flow.
much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. Lillian, so you weren't here for the question. I don't think you joined in after. So it's just to introduce yourself and then just what it is that, maybe that you find might, most helpful or whatnot, just to kind of get you through February.
Okay, so hi everybody. I am Lillian Larson Bookkeeping Services. I'm located out here in Boston, Mass, in the US, specializing in attorneys and professional services. So right now, I'm basically, although I don't do any tax work, I am up to my eyeballs in getting all the compliance things necessary for my accountants. So what I've done in order to kind of get myself organized a little bit, I started in November and December, and I have emails that are sent out to clients automatically asking them, uncategorized expenses get sent out, anything with payroll information gets sent out, and 1099s, which are the biggest thorn in our sides out here, is just a nightmare. But I've decided that I'm giving deadlines to everything. and that if they're not able to produce it to me within a specified period of time, which will be more than fair because I'm sending out reminders basically every month, that there will be an additional charge. I did do that with a couple of clients, and I found it quite amazing how the ones that did read the email, if they fetch their pocketbook, they call me right away. So I found that to be a little bit of an effective tool. So I did do that this year. And for Diane, what she was saying, getting a new client in the mix in that period of time is super stressful. I took on this huge nonprofit, and it's a lot of basically auditing all of 2019. And I've been putting in crazy amounts of hours, which I will never do again. It's just too stressful, and I think it's not fair to my client base. So,
Well, and not fair to yourself as well. We actually
yes.
stop during tax season. We don't bring anybody new on, and if anybody calls us, we are literally doing like DIYs. That's it that comes on because Leanne's got the bandwidth for that, because she doesn't necessarily deal with the tax side of it anymore. Otherwise, no, that's it. Not until May.
Maybe
But
that
yeah,
should be
crazy.
maybe that should be one of our kind of best practices. No new clients.
I think it depends on the person because I am onboarding 3 new clients this week, no big deal, but it's because I am highly systematized.
Yes.
If I did not have all of the systems and workflows and time blocking and everything working together, I would be losing my mind. And then I would agree that, yes, that should be a rule. But,
Well,
just
and
send
you
them
know
to
what?
me.
And you know what else? It probably really depends on the type of clients that you have. You know, like Lillian said, a huge nonprofit, that is going to be a big disruptor for that first month or two. So if it's just a small service company, then maybe it's not such a big deal. So yeah, you probably have to qualify that a bit.
Yes, and that's key, and that's something that I do. I don't give a proposal until I look at the books. I look at my time blocking and my capacity and the timeline, and I have no problem saying no or putting them on a waiting list if they really want to work with me.
Yeah.
So that does play a big key. But yes, like for example, I am onboarding a nonprofit. They're not huge, but they're medium size. And during that process, before I even agreed to give them a proposal, I took a quick look and say, can I handle this without stressing myself out or making myself have to work overtime? Because I am big on having work-life balance. I am a workaholic. So it's a very fine line for me to forget about life and just work, work, work. So for anybody listening that has that stress, yes, I used to be me years ago. It can be done. There is a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, unfortunately, mine was further complicated by that I did have someone that I had chosen to help me with it, but she ended up leaving. So
That can be tricky when you have
yes,
your staff leaving
I
you
did find
at those
someone else,
time.
but there's still that little lag of time, which can cause a stressful time. But we're okay now. I'm back here. This is why I haven't been here for 2 weeks. It's been a nightmare.
We've missed you though. We have. So welcome
Yeah.
back.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. So we've got quite a few people joining us on Facebook. So if anybody, wants to come and join us up on Zoom, you can do that. That's great. If not, you just want to, I know Santa tried and she's having issues with Zoom, so she's just going to join in Facebook. Feel free to join in the conversation. I'm doing the best I can to watch to make sure that nobody gets missed. And if you've got any comments you'd like to add, feel free to do those. So while we're waiting, it's funny. This is where I was saying at the beginning of the call that I actually mentioned Diane in one of my boot camp calls today, because somebody, and she actually happens to be one of the ones watching too, is we were talking about that, about providing the higher consulting services, the higher cost. How do you structure the plans? Do you allow them just the quick phone calls or whatnot? And that's I said, how we structure it is essentially, we give an hour on our support plans, and I guess this person was asking, what about rollover minutes if we don't use it, and how do we do that? I said, well, at first we kind of stick to them, that if they send us an email, we're like, that's great to bring up on your session, your session, make sure it's scheduled. After 6 months, we're okay with responding to emails because they're not really holding their questions. But that's when I brought up what you do, Diane, your just a quick question, which I love. And so, when you do the just a quick question, it's, if I understand correctly, that they schedule the meeting, they are invoiced, and they pay before you're on the phone with them. Is that right?
Yes, that's exactly how it works for Soma. We also have just implemented that for Trifold too, because of course bookkeepers have just a quick question
Of course they do.
on things, and so we don't have the pay side of that set up perfectly yet because of the time frame and fact that we're not all working at Trifold at the same time. But that will be something that we look at in the future. So right now, if it's a bookkeeper, we're letting them book just the quick question, and then they're getting invoiced afterwards. But they're all trustworthy and fantastic people that I love working with, so it's not such a big deal. But definitely for clients or people that just, hear about me or come across my name or something, then yes, they pay up front. Yeah.
Nice. And how long you've been having that process? Has been for a few years,
Yes,
hasn't it?
actually more than a few
Oh
years.
wow.
It goes back to probably maybe 2015.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
in 2015 was when I really started talking about being a proactive bookkeeper and started doing a lot of the conference seminars and things about, the traditional bookkeeper not going to make it in the future kind of
Yep.
thing, and that you needed to change that whole mindset. And I was going through all of that at that time. So I was putting up procedures and things in place to make sure that I was basically getting what I was worth. So the value of what I was bringing was the first priority for me, because I don't think we were doing really well at that prior to
Right.
2015. That's only been since then that everybody's talking about and getting their value. So I started putting those kinds of things in place back then. And also added value started back then too. I can remember being up on stage once with Alan Salmon, and I'm sure it was at least 2014, maybe one of the first IPBC conferences, because the first conference was in 2012. So yeah, maybe about 2014, and talking to the people at the conference about my Monday reports and how I charged for that. But it was an added service that people were willing to pay, because I had all of these small contractors that had no idea what was in the bank or whether or not they were going to make payroll on Friday. So Mondays, I had an automated report that went out and said, this is what's in the bank. This is what you could collect this week. This is what you have to pay this week. And this is the payroll. And are you going to make it, kind of thing, bottom line. And they got to love that much. Just that every Monday they knew it was going to be in their inbox
That's a great idea.
automatically, right? And that at least goes back to about 2014 when I started doing that as an added service. And they were happy to pay for it, because often these small contractors, especially, they just don't have any sense of cash flow. So it was a small, simple cash flow system for them to be able to manage. And they knew how many phone calls they had to make that week, or how busy they had to get with accounts receivable and collecting that money in, and what the deadlines were, all of that kind of stuff. So yeah, just simple things like that I started way back then. And
Right.
then of course they've built them since then, and people are really always talking about them now.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's great. Yeah, and that's like I say, that's just yeah, something that I was like, no, you can do that, you can do this. And we were talking also too about different ways to kind of control the time, because if you
Mm,
do have somebody, and we find this very difficult, that we've had clients easily, and it's okay if you're kind of like, oh, it's 5 minutes, it's this is, but it starts to add up and it has a snowball effect. So what we've just started here is with some of these clients, and then I'd love to hear what everybody else out there does. And hello, Afsana, you made it.
I've made it finally. Hello,
Um,
everybody.
but if we do feel that we're with somebody that they paid for an hour, and of course you don't want to come across like almost penny pinching, that you're like, well, you know what, we're at 59 minutes, you better hurry up, we've got 1 minute, that's all you paid for, unless you want to pay for more. You don't want to come across that way.
mm,
So what we've started to do is actually set, if we do have somebody that we feel it's getting like that, we actually set our alarm on our phone to go off audible, so that they can hear about 5 minutes before the end of the call, where we can just say to them, oh, I'm sorry. That's just my reminder, because I do have somebody booked right behind you. That's just our 5 minute reminder to kind of wrap up. And whether we've got somebody booked or not, that's not the point, but that's kind of a way to help keep on track.
And I think you'd probably only have to do that once or twice and they'd get the message.
I think
Because
so.
I never come across that as a problem. When they're scheduled, they know that it's scheduled from 12 to 1. And it's usually them that are saying, oh, we're almost out of time. So let's, table that to next month, or let's put that on the next call. So yeah, it works really, really well. And I don't take phone calls. I think, Jessica, you're the same. I remember you mentioning that you don't take phone calls either. They have to, if they want an actual phone call or they want a meeting to talk about something, they've got to schedule it. But what I do give to, I won't say all of my clients, but certainly most clients with their monthly fee, they get unlimited emails. Send me as many emails as you want to send me, and I will answer them within 72 hours during a work day. So I'm not answering phone, emails on the weekend, and they know that. If they send it on Saturday, they never expect me to reply until Monday. Kind of
Same
thing.
here.
Yeah.
And that's great when you're time blocking. Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful way to do it when you're time
Yeah.
blocking, for sure.
Yeah,
within
9 to 5,
72
no
hours.
weekends. Yeah, same with
Yeah,
me.
Monday to Friday, 9 to 5, no weekends. But send your emails when just know that that's my hours. And I promise to reply to your email within 72 hours of receiving it, unless it's the weekends.
Cool.
Yeah.
Someone once compared the time blocking to being able to do what you need to do within a specified amount of time. So if you notice when you've only got 5 hours, let's say, to get a bunch of work done, and it's a deadline and you're under the crunch, it's amazing how you make it work.
Yeah.
So it's the same
So
thing.
true. So true.
And the other thing that's really important in that whole thing is you've got to have a calendar, and you've got to have a way for clients to book your time so that you can control what times you do allow them to book, right? So for example, Lillian, you had to have that new client come on this, you wouldn't have been able to leave your time frame what it normally is. You'd need to go onto your booking system and say, okay, I have, 4 hours of every single day to deal with this week with this brand new client. So block out that time so nobody can book that time in, so that you can actually, have those 4 hours to get that onboarding done and sort out your new staff and all those things that come with it. So a booking system is absolutely a must if you're going to try and do time blocking.
I just posted links in the chat to videos that I recorded on those two topics. One is on time blocking, the other one is online scheduling and how it can help you.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'll just grab that. If that's okay, then Jessica move those over to the Facebook chat.
Hello, this is Jessica Fox.
Somebody's watching it.
Oh, sorry.
I want to talk about how I
Oh,
have been able to increase my efficiency and productivity.
Just mute it.
Sorry about that.
And kudos to Jessica.
This is how I know anytime I share a link that people are clicking it immediately because it's just out of place. It's a YouTube thing I cannot control.
I know. And I clicked on both of them, and now I know where are they.
Yes, and now I know. Anytime I click on a YouTube link, I'm immediately hovering towards where the space icon, the pause icon is, so that I can stop it or just mute it.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of even free resources out there to be able to use scheduling. Calendly has a free one. We actually decided to upgrade to the paid version. I can't remember why. There was something extra that we really felt would be helpful with that, but there's free versions out there. And you're right, we actually were able to also, because this buggered me up too, is I didn't realize at first that you could not allow people to block within 24 hours.
Yes.
So all of a sudden I get in and I look and I'm like, oh, look, I've got free time this afternoon. And then all of a sudden I get a pop-up, going, oh, your attendee is waiting. And I'm like, what meeting attendee? I don't have a meeting. They went in and scheduled, and I hadn't checked my email to see. So that changed. And I highly recommend, if you're using something, make sure
of that. And the other thing that's important in that is they can't book, 24 hours ahead, but they also, you need time in between. So there's a buffer time that you can
Yes.
set in there, that you get a 15 minutes prior to the meeting so that you can review or get caught up on what the meeting's about, and then 15 minutes after the meeting so you can make any notes or whatever you want to make about it. So buffer times are also really important.
Absolutely. We do this.
Yeah.
We've got 15 minutes on either side. So it's funny. Somebody will sit there, they'll block, like, I'll see all of a sudden this like little 30-minute in between. I'm like, how did you squeeze in there? And it's because, I had an hour booked before, an hour after. We had
Yes.
the 15 minutes. So there was only one 30-minute option available.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. And that one of the challenges that we're having with Trifold is we can't combine the two schedules, because all three partners have their own businesses and the time allotted to Trifold. But if you've got somebody, already scheduled in Soma, then Trifold can't see that. So the time might
Right.
look like it's open. So we're struggling a little bit with that to get that sorted out. But
There must be
I
some,
have a question. Go ahead.
yes. Well, I was just gonna say there must be some scheduling app out there that can look
that
at multiple
looks at them
calendars.
all.
There
Yeah.
has to be. So if somebody out there's watching and knows it, please paste that.
Yeah.
I have a question for people who use Calendly. If you're sending your time to more than one person and you need them both to, book it, as soon as one books it, the other one cannot, it's just gone. Is there any way around it?
No, but you don't want two people booking at the same time anyway.
No, they're supposed to be attendees at the meeting.
Oh, like a group meeting?
Right, yeah.
I don't use Calendly anymore, so I don't know if that one has a feature for group. Maybe the
We-
paid version does.
Maybe the
I don't
paid
know.
version has it,
Mhm.
yeah. Do you guys
I've-
use it, Tanya?
We do, and I'll just pop in and take a look right now. We've got the paid version. I don't think they do. I've never seen anything like it.
No, I've never seen anything either, other than you can choose within the company. So like if somebody goes into Trifold Bookkeeper Advisors to book a time, they can choose to have that time with me, Marge, or Shelley, or two of us, or three of us. So, but we're within the company, right? So it's
No,
not
I'm talking about the
people.
outside. That
Yeah.
like if I'm meeting with like 2-3 people from the same company,
Right.
and I need them to, all book it in or coordinate it or somehow to make it work is always a problem. As soon as one person makes it, I have to send an email and say like, okay, so such and such a person booked it. Is that okay with you? And so it just defeats the purpose of automation,
Yes, absolutely. I use bookings from Microsoft and I don't see that feature anywhere in there. So
Okay.
Book Like a Boss does allow you to have group appointments, because I use them for virtual training sessions, and I can put a max of how many people can book the same time slot, and it sends everybody the same Zoom link. But it sounds like what you need is more like a polling feature, like to find what's the time that works for everybody.
What is it that you use?
Book Like a Boss. But Book Like a Boss is not designed for teams. So if there's more than you, I don't recommend it.
yeah.
But it sounds like you were saying that sometimes one person from that entity will pick a time, but they don't yet know if everybody else can do that time. So you need something more like a polling feature. Doodle is good to find a mutually convenient time amongst a group of people. And I believe Meeting Bird has a feature for that as well, but I haven't used that in over a year. So I am not sure. I'm trying to see if I can at a glance see up that in Meeting Bird. Yes, I can create a poll.
And that's good, because I did find in Calendly that you can do either team, so somebody can book with the first person who's available between all of your team members, or the group. So I had two options: the group that you can put maximum of 12, and then multiple invitees can go in and reserve the same spot. But you're right, I don't think that would actually solve the problem. I think Jessica's bang on that you need a poll first, because it would have to be that, hey, here it is, here's the time, we've got room for 12. Anybody who wants to join this 12, the first 12 could come in and sign up.
What is it called, Jessica? The one that you mentioned, Book Like a Boss, or what?
Well, Book Like a Boss is not for Teams. It doesn't have the polling feature. I don't think it does.
Okay.
Meeting Bird does have the polling
Meeting Bird.
option where because for example, like I sometimes have to present to a board for a nonprofit and we have like 3
Yeah.
people that need to be in together.
Yes.
I have as an add-on on my email. So just I
Okay.
insert the time slots that are good for me and it pulls everybody else.
It seems
until
like an
hopefully-
extension for Google, for Gmail, right?
Yes, I mean, it's a standalone app. I just have it integrated with my Gmail so that way I don't have to like, go to one app, copy it and paste it into an
Exactly.
email. So it
Thank you.
makes
I'm
it
gonna
easy
look
in
into
that
it.
regard.
Thanks.
And then another one is Doodle. That is
Doodle.
one that I use to also find mutually convenient times for a team to meet.
Okay.
Doodle.
I'm gonna look at that one. Doodle poll, right?
I think. Let me
Says
pull it up.
Doodle poll free. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I've heard of Doodle before.
You're muted, Tanya.
Mute.
Sorry, I said I've heard of Doodle as well too, and I see here they've got a free version, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So that's great. I haven't looked at them before. I usually just get, send the emails out and just deal with that. But I really like this. You have to look into that. That's cool.
It's amazing actually how much it frees up your day and your time by just putting that off to the client or whoever it is that you're meeting with to do that end of things and looking at your schedule. I mean, it's great because you actually can say to them, just book a time that's convenient for you, but it's really about your convenience. But you do have to keep up with the app and make sure that you put any other appointments that you're doing in your app. And that's why that's one of the reasons why I like to stick with Microsoft, because I use Microsoft Outlook. So it's automatically going to look at my booking schedule for and make sure that they can't book in any times that I've actually got time booked off, and I don't have to worry about it in that sense.
Right. And if you use a third-party app, like we use Calendly with Outlook, the problem is we found that it doesn't always sync.
Yeah.
Because I'm using my laptop and my desktop. So when I'm at my desktop, it syncs. I come to my laptop, I've got to resync it. Now it doesn't sync for my desktop. So now I get to my desktop, and I have had 2 people joining in. So now I only sync with my desktop. I do not sync with anywhere else. That way I know it'll sync with my desktop, and my desktop is always on.
Yeah.
So there's no issues with that. So
yes, and that is key when choosing a tool. You want something that speaks to your two-way sync with your current calendar system, so you don't have to remember to update something in 2 places. So I have my booking is connected to my business calendar, my personal calendar, and a third calendar for volunteer work that I do. So if I enter something in my phone right now, my personal calendar, it's automatically removed from availability for a client. I don't have to remember to block off that time there too.
Yeah,
that's
see,
awesome.
that's what I'm looking for, is to be able to, for it to look at my Soma calendar and not book off time for the trifold calendar. So what is that you're using, Jessica?
I'm using a bunch of different tools, but Book Like a Boss does it, Calendly does it, Meeting Bird does it. Now I am a Google person. I use G Suite, so I don't know how those play with Office 365 or Microsoft, whatever it's called. So take a look, but when you're researching in the features, it will tell you in calendar sync, just make sure it's a 2-way sync. It can read and write. Because you also want it to show up in your calendar when somebody books. You don't want to have to rely on the email notification that somebody made an appointment.
Right.
17 Hat has some features which I haven't looked into it yet. I have to sync all my calendars in 17 Hat, and I believe when you do that, it sync all your calendars, which I have like 4 or 5 of them, and then it would not allow like booking if there is anything in any of those calendars. But I haven't done that yet, so I'm gonna try it and let you guys know if that works.
Yes, I tried to use it when they first released the feature a few months ago, and it was so cumbersome because there were
Was
two
it?
webinars that were really long that you had to watch to understand how to set it up. And I'm like, I don't have time
Oh.
for this. My system works. I don't need to. Maybe by now they come up with
If
some
it's
tutorial that is more straight to the point.
if it's
But
not broken, don't fix it.
and that's my key right there. I was like, I don't have to switch. If this thing I was able to set up out of the box, just click and go. This thing is too complicated if I have to watch a webinar before I can set it up right.
Yeah.
I
No,
imagine by
And
now they've had time to build some instructions.
And that's really important, Jessica, especially for bookkeepers that are just trying to get organized in that way. Like, keep it simple, baby steps. Don't, like, it's really difficult when you see everything that's available and out there to get down in the weeds with all this stuff. And then you're not moving forward because you're not getting anything accomplished.
Right.
So stay simple. Just start using a simple calendar and let clients book, and then you can grow from there and get it more.
And it may not even give your clients any values, all those things that we do to makes it complicated, but at the end there's no value, not for me, not for them. It's just like a toy that we all get excited
so you
and
got to
play.
be careful with that.
Yes, and they can be a source of stress. We
Oh,
get this
yes.
shiny app syndrome
Shiny
because,
apps.
like right now, everybody looks ClickUp. It's the new shiny app, so everybody wants to try it. So I'm like, okay, let's see what the fuzz is about. And then I saw the learning curve involved. And I'm like, my system works. It's not broken. I don't need to stress myself out trying to figure this out. Good for you if it works for you. Carry on.
Yes.
True.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
And I just want to point out there with Calendly because it does sync with 365. It syncs with Google, where it only syncs with my desktop is because we use Outlook desktop through Rackspace hosted. So our desktop is a Microsoft Exchange. I don't want 365. It did not work for me. I don't like their spam filter. We did lose business. It was many years ago, but I've been happy with Rackspace for it. And Rackspace currently does not have a direct integration. So we've got an app downloaded, which does integrate. But again, if my calendar, and the app is not running, it won't properly sync. But to me, again, my desktop computer is on all the time, and then that syncs with everything, so it doesn't matter.
So is it Calendly you're saying?
Calendly.
Can you spell it? C-A-L?
Yeah, CALEND, CALENDLY.
DLY. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
E-L-Y. Okay.
Yeah. So just if you're hosted with Rackspace, they are apparently working on a sync, but no direct sync. But again, if you're using 365 or G Suite, it's good. It's only if you're using like a hosted exchange that I would double check first to make sure. Otherwise, make sure again you have a workaround like me that leaving either only using one computer or making sure it stays on all the time. So awesome. So that's great. So
I don't know, did I answer that question thoroughly enough or?
Oh, your quick question? I think so. Does that mean that you've been using it? How it builds in?
It works
Yeah.
really well, really
Yeah.
well.
Yeah,
It's amazing. It's huge lift right off your shoulders. And you actually, I don't know, I think about the second day after implementing it, I went up and went, wait a second, the phone's not ringing. That was the biggest change actually, because I thought, oh, I'm in a business. The phone should be ringing to get new business and stuff. And it was never brand new business. Once in a while, yes, but the majority of the time it was clients that felt they could just pick up the phone and call me. So it was amazing how nice and quiet the day got. And that, the few phone calls that did come in were actual clients, because the other people that I'm working with knew that either it was an email or it was a booked appointment.
Right. Yep. No, and it does make a difference. It absolutely does, because every time the phone rings, because it still interrupts your flow. It takes you that long to get back into it. You've got to get out of that client, get back, get into a different headspace, and
yeah.
for sure.
And sometimes it's calls from vendors just trying to schedule a demo or sell you advertising. That was
Mm.
the biggest reason for me to completely mute my calls. I don't even know when my business line rings. I don't care. I don't want to know. My answering service can take it, or my voicemail can take it, and my voicemail greeting, if it's a prospect, it guides them to the website to schedule. So the only
Yeah.
ones that leave messages are Yelp, Google,
that's a
and
good
the
idea.
app vendors that found me online and are trying to sell me their app.
I like that.
That's a great idea, Jessica. You could put that on your voicemail message that they could go to your. Great.
Yep.
That's another step. That's another added thing. Yeah.
That's a
Yeah,
great
and when
tip.
I use my answering service, which I only use it seasonally when I have call volume of prospects, because the rest of the year they only answer spam calls,
Right.
the answering service can make the appointment for them via my website. They just have my website scheduler open and they just make the appointment on the spot.
Yes.
Nice.
I don't hear my phone ring. Sometimes I forget, and then I look at the call log. It's like, oh, it rang 15 times today. No idea.
Jessica, who do you use for your answering service?
It's called Reception HQ.
Okay.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially if you're, just yourself, right? So yourself and you schedule things out here. We've got, 4 of us that are answering the phones, and it's whoever's free, can pick up. We're all doing different things. So it doesn't really disrupt our flow. But you're right. If it's just me and I'm just, subbing the work out or something like that, that would be hugely invaluable. So that's a great idea. And I wonder if that's available in Canada as well.
I was wondering too.
I'm sure that if there aren't, there are equivalents.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Yeah.
There's
Well, it
gotta be
says
something.
Australia, UK, and New Zealand. I don't see Canada in there.
But there is a lot of answering services that will do that for you. Yeah.
Probably, yeah.
And there are some that market specifically to accounting firms. I just chose this one because at the time I was on a tight budget and they were the right price. They had a free trial. They gave me like free credit towards the first month. I was like sold.
Well, and I mean, let's face it, how much knowledge or, like really to schedule, to click on your link and schedule them in, it's not rocket science.
Yes, and I am on a pay-as-you-go plan. So other places they have you pay for a bucket of minutes that you use or lose. This is a charge per call. So I don't care how long or short the call is. It's a reduced rate if it's a spammer, and then I can block so that spammer call will never ring to them again. And then it's pretty quick and easy because I just have like a prepaid balance. So if it drops to 0, it automatically replenishes $50. So sometimes during busy season, the $50 is probably used up in a month. The rest of the year, it lasts several months. It rolls over. I'm not wasting on a high fee for minutes that I may or may not use.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah.
And you know
Great
what?
idea.
I love, pay as you go plans for things like that. My fax service is something very similar to that. I pay, basically an average of $7 a month, and that's it, because it's again more as a pay per use, because I mean, we don't use around for CRE, and that's it.
I
It's
know.
for outgoing. So I get so many faxes a month, and that's it. It just, otherwise it just kind of all carries through. So, there's sometimes where those, credit type systems or the pay as you go type systems, are definitely a lifesaver for something. So that way it gives you that extra flexibility, that extra whatever it is that you're looking for at a price that you can actually afford.
Yes. Well, and
Yeah.
that's kind of the whole thing behind just a quick question too, isn't it? It's not, I don't have you on the line constantly. I just need a quick question answered, and can book it. And I'm happy. Most people are happy to pay for that service if they can get it quickly and just when they need it.
Right. Exactly. So now when you do your just a quick question, is it a time frame? Like, is it 15 minutes or is it one question?
Yeah, so it depends on, so we've got different categories, right? So I've got just a quick question if they're looking for Sage training, just a quick question if it's, a standard bookkeeping question, just a quick question if it's something within their business. So there's various ones. And yeah, it's like a 15-minute slot, but they can book 2 slots if they think that that's what they're going to need. If I get on the call and I see that they've booked is something that is obviously one that I'm going to have to dig into big time and maybe even take a look at their books and things, then right away, I don't charge them for that. Just a quick question. I tell them that right away, this is going to be a longer session. You need to go back and book an hour for this, because and I need to be, doing it on Zoom, and I need to look into your books, and I need to know exactly how it's been handled prior and what you want to do to change things. It's a much bigger question, right?
Right.
But if somebody's saying, I just need to know how to book this prepaid thing, well, I can show anybody that in 15 minutes, right?
Yep. No, that's awesome. That's a great idea. So, yes. All right. Well, it is 4:30. Our time is up, and I do actually have a client call. And look at this. I think this is the first time we've actually probably ended at the right time in ages. So I thank you very much, everybody.
Practice what we preach, right?
That's
Right.
right. Exactly. Exactly.
Your
So thank you-
alarm didn't go off, Tanya.
You guys are all special. There we go. You're all special. But I thank you, everybody who's joined us live on Facebook. Feel free to join us live on Zoom at some point. I thank you so much, everybody who's joined live on Facebook. I appreciate it, so that I'm not talking to myself all the time. So that's awesome. We did miss Deb today. She did message me that she actually would not be able to make it today. She's got some other things that she's dealing with today. So, I just said, well, we'll miss you. You're here and thoughts. So hello, Deb, if you're watching this. Rewatching it later. And yeah, that's great. So again,
Have a
thank you so
great
much.
weekend, everybody.
Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend,
Bye.
everybody. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye.